Hi fam, it's Dylan's mum Deborah. This is Dylan Friends.
Oh my God, we've killed Michael Jordan's dad.
I won the first Brownlow. The problem with that was I wanted it again.
Hey, Jared, delete the tweet.
No, we're not here to break news.
This is an exclusive.
It's so silly looking back on for me because I remember just feeling like I'm not needed.
I couldn't, in my wildest of dreams, imagine that we win the flag at the end of the year.
Damo's a lot funnier than people give him credit for.
Hugely funny.
But Andrew, a little message came across his phone and it was, give Job his Brownlow back.
Yes, welcome back, Dylan Friends. Hey, Sammy, how are you, mate?
Hello, Dill.
Good to have you.
I'm chomping at the bit.
I love getting the tradies boys in. How are you, Mitchell?
Hello, Dill. Finally a bit of footy sense on this podcast.
I know. Hey, you're not an avid listener, but you do message me every now and then. And
I'm a big consumer of the TikToks and the Insta clips.
Have you got any favourites this year? You liked the Bevo one, didn't you? Because you found that a bit.
Yep. Was listening to the whole thing, waiting for you to really grill him on his coaching.
Yeah, no, I'm scared of that stuff. So,
is he the scariest coach?
We had a good rapport by the end of it, and it was...
You can see why his players play for him.
It was a different Bevo, mind you. It was a time when he was... I reckon he was... At that period, they weren't going that well, and that he was more... People were thinking he was more out than in, and then you fast forward 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and he's signs a new deal. Was I the catalyst for it? Maybe.
Bont still hasn't signed.
I think yes.
Yeah.
I think you were.
But he was good. He was good.
I think most careers go north after they walk out of here.
No, it's fair to say. Some people might disagree with that. But does Bont stay? Is there actually any truth to this?
He couldn't leave.
Where's the tradies whiteboard?
Oh, right.
Couldn't leave now. It's like Carol always used to say, barrack for the yarn. So I'm barracking for him to leave, but I don't think it'll happen.
Sam admitted this year that on tradies that he was actually barracking by the end for Dusty to leave Richmond to go to Gold Coast. I think that was the biggest revelation we've had for the year.
I barrack for theatre too, though, to be honest. As a lover of the game, I love play movement. And that's why I love your boys' show, Tradies. It's probably the only podcast I listen to at the moment because I'm so sick of my own stuff that I need to just switch off and listen to some real nuff bag sort of content, which in the nicest way possible, that's what Tradies is. It's just deep diving into player movement, history of play movement, and you're
big on, you messaged our group chat the other day, one of our listeners put in a really learned question, like the depth of knowledge of our listeners is gone to a new level, I reckon.
Yeah, that question was amazing. It was around the compensation for free agency, whether the compensation is over the entirety of the deal.
Or the last year of the contract.
Meaning teams could, if they're really smart about it, back end a deal to then get a bigger compensation.
Yeah, so Sam Draper is the example. He's unrestricted this year at Essendon because he's not in the top 10 paid players at the club this year in 2025. But if he was, he'd fall into the restricted free agency band, which means that he can walk to any club this year and Essendon don't get the right to match a deal for him.
Has he found a house in Brisbane yet?
Is it Brisbane?
Apparently the market's quite good there as opposed to here. It's still a bit cooked.
I'd go to Brisbane. I'd love it up there.
Did you see the weather we've been having this week? I would ship out of here as quickly as humanly possible.
It's beautiful, Brisbane.
Imagine getting paid money to go play football outside of Melbourne.
If Drapes goes to Brisbane, would Butts relocate?
Drapes?
Butts would. Yeah, well, you'd see shoelaces hanging out of his backside. I think if he'd be carrying his suitcases probably as well. But Brisbane is interesting. I love this sort of four-way thing at the moment. Let's touch on that. So there's a bit of news around Tom de Koning, who looks pretty confidently they'd be going to St Kilda. You can't really say no to that money.
I mean, could anyone humanly
say no
to being paid more money to leave Carlton? Like, you'd almost take a pay cut to leave Carlton. Would you not?
Playing in front of big crowds at Carlton. St Kilda aren't getting the biggest
I don't know if you listened to this week's ep, but Mitch and I played a role play of Cripps and Darcy Cameron having a conversation of Cripps trying to lure him from Collingwood.
So if de Koning goes, the thought is that the boys might go after Darcy Cameron because Cripps and Cameron are very close mates.
They're very
good mates. Mitch, as Cripps was like, well, why don't you come here for another couple $100,000?
I think that's what we'd be worried about is the Cripps actually going to Collingwood versus the other way around.
And I said, how much of the extra money that you're paying me will I have to spend on psychological help?
Okay, he's hurt. Hurt people.
I knew Sam was hurt when he sat at the Great Northern in Carlton last year and watched Brisbane kick the first 10 on Carlton in that elimination final.
Look, still never been explained to me why de Koning was subbed that night. It's still never actually been properly explained.
Literally, I said this on Footy and Friends as a gag. but almost serious. I was like, was it a tactical sub or something?
I just
what
want to know.
was going on?
Just tell me. Just so I know. So I can go to my grave knowing what the thought process was.
And then you lose Matt Kennedy.
And he was pissed off.
So
Best
if I was a
clubman.
shareholder, right, in a company that made a bad investment, that's fine. Like, we all lose money from time to time. Just explain to me the investment process.
But as a Carlton member, you are a shareholder, essentially.
So I've never been a member of a club and will never be.
You don't deserve any answers.
Nor
then.
should
Put your money where your mouth is.
Nor should anyone who works in the media. The same way that journalists should not vote. Very strong on that.
Shouldn't vote
Right.
for politics.
No, never. I've never voted.
How many fines have you
Whole new
received?
can of worms here.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't open.
I'm still a Cats member.
Shouldn't be.
We know, mate. We know. we know.
I don't go though. Mum uses my
we're
ticket.
aware that you're a Cats member.
Oh, that is so
Don't worry about
good.
that.
We know-
Hey,
we know, mate.
I need to stay on track here, but Carlton then. Let's go Carlton first before the ruck stuff. What do you see happening for them? Like, I am an avid supporter. I love...
Are you a member?
I'm a member, 100%. Yeah, I'm a member there, the Giants, and I think I'm a member at Gold Coast as well. Nick Coleman makes me sign up every fucking year, and then they keep calling me, so I feel bad. I got to
Good
do
man,
it.
Nick Coleman.
Yeah, great man.
Started a recovery lab in Geelong.
He did. H3 or P3?
Of course, it always comes back to Geelong.
P3, yeah.
Every time we pitch.
Carlton, what happens there at the end of the year? So there was graffiti on the building. What's the biggest updates at the moment with all that happening?
Well, I mean, the coach is under the pump, the head of footy's under the pump, the assistants are under the pump. So this is going to be major change. It's just how deep they cut. The thing is, they can't really change the list. I mean, we've been talking about this quite a while. Mitch made the point during the week. You know, they're committed. They're sort of...
They've built 5 years to get to this point.
Yeah, that's
They've
right.
gone and got Sard, Chera.
They've chips in.
They've spent their money for now.
And
it's not like you can just rip it up overnight.
And the thing is, still, like, it's not as though they're all 35. Like, there's still a lot of room for success with this current group. They just need to get their skates on, and they need to get a system that works. So I think, Graham Wright has been put to me, someone that was at Collingwood for a long time, called him a ruthless pragmatist. And that is, he's not emotional about it. He's not rah-rah-rah. He'll just come in with his scalpel and he'll cut. So they'll make change. But Rob Priestley, the new president, has come out and said we're going to use the next 8 weeks to really dig into what's going wrong. I mean, what have you been doing the last 3.5 years?
The ruthless pragmatist
Yep.
is a concerning statement for me because it's like, and I'm not saying it's the wrong or the right thing. It's obviously there needs to be change, but I feel like there's been so many ruthless pragmatists come through. They want to be the one that impacts. They turn the lift over. Fucking, you start again. Bang. That ruthless pragmatist gets sacked. The next one comes in, and then you start it again.
Yep.
There needs to be, I think, I don't think the answer is sacking Voss. It's probably putting more support around him to help him get to the next level of whatever that is that he's deficient in. A lot of people say it's more tactical.
Do they have the time to be able to invest in that though?
Well, who else are you going to get? Adam Simpson?
No, I bet.
What?
But a lot of people didn't know who Collingwood were going to get after Nathan Buckley.
I don't know, but it's
A lot of people didn't know who the Giants were going to get after Leon Cameron.
How many Craig McRae's are out there? And is it actually Craig
Well,
McRae,
they're out
or is
there.
it the business that's built behind Craig McRae that helped him succeed?
Yeah,
You
I
know
mean,
what I mean?
Craig Kelly definitely helped things as
Yeah.
a CEO. Brendan Bolton definitely helped things. Justin Lepage,
Yeah.
you know, the guys that they put around him, 100%. But yeah, has Voss created an environment which can maintain and sustain success? I'm not sure.
Is it his role to do that though? His role is to coach the team, okay? And albeit if he hasn't done that right, you leave. But to have people support, there's other people that need to make that club stronger than just him. Like so many kids have to answer. This is what frustrates me about Carlton is I feel like straight away the answer's to the coach. Like it's not the coach. So many other
But
things going on.
wouldn't you have said that when Moldhouse was there, that he and his presence had the biggest impact on the club day to day?
Yeah, well, I think that it's not about the impact that it has day to day. It's about sometimes it's not what you do, it's what you don't do, or maybe you're allowed not to do. And I think that if you're feeling like you don't have full support or you've got the strongest team around you, that limits a lot of your decision making. And then, again, cut the head off Michael Voss. This is just coaches in general.
Yep.
I just have a big believer in that. If you find like you've got the right person, like you look at the Damien Hardwick stories of Richmond and, you know, him nearly getting sacked, staying together. Same thing with
Bomber Thompson.
Bomber Thompson.
Yep.
Like, again, you don't know what's going to happen.
But don't forget, when they got rid of their previous coaching regime, they brought Voss in as the guy that's been there before, as the leader, as the aura guy. Follow me. He was meant to be the presence in the room, and there's meant to be brains put around him. So if he's not going to get to work now with the list that they've assembled, that is the big headache. My question to you, Dill, is the president's come out and said we need calm for the next 8 weeks, then we'll sit down and make measured decisions at the end of the year. How much damage can be done in the next 8 weeks as a playing group? Because if they continue to, I guess, implode as a playing group and start to question each other, can more damage be done in these 8 weeks? Because it's not like the president's going to come out and say, let's calm it for the next 8 weeks and everyone's just going to be calm. Things can go into a hole from here.
They can go into a hole, but quite rightly as well, they can actually go the other way too. Now, I'm not saying either one's going to happen, but like you boys know this probably better than anyone. A week is a long time in football. I reckon that was the first thing someone told me when I entered the AFL system, and it's still rings true to this day. You know, we were chatting about Bevo before and how at the start of the year it looked like what was going to happen there. Bang, 4 or 5 weeks later, he's signed on and everyone loves it and they're all happy and dancing. So who knows? There's still a lot of time. But the thing with Carlton that, again, has always worried me is I still think the outside noise gets in too much around pressure, and I think that's a really big thing. Like, I almost want someone to come out and just say, and even if they're lying, pressure seeps in when you allow it to. So if you just come out and say, Voss is our man, fuck off, we're not making any decisions at the end of the year and you're not going to break us. Bang. Don't even answer any more questions. But
Priestley sort of did say that.
I think he said it that.
No, he didn't say it in that way.
Yeah, that way.
Quite so eloquent.
Yeah, yeah. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're letting it seep in, it'll seep in even more, and it almost forces your hand at the end of the day. Like, that's what's happened in the past, 100%.
Yeah. I sort of come at it almost from the opposite viewpoint. I mean, I'm a huge EPL fan, and I grew up a Chelsea supporter, and they were middle table scroungers really for a long time. And then Abramovich came over and bought the club. And he just had this completely unapologetic way of saying, if we're not winning, I'm going to change it. And I'm going to keep changing it until we get winning. You can win. And that for a long time, they were the butt of all jokes of, oh, well, you know, if you have a bad game at Chelsea as a coach, you get sacked. But the other joke was that Abramovich had to keep building new buildings to have trophy cabinets because they kept winning. And the whole thing was, and it even happened recently with Frank Lampard, arguably their greatest ever player, came in, was a disaster as a coach. And everyone said, oh, well, they won't sack him midway through the year, be disrespectful. He was gone. And this is no disrespect. We're answerable to our fans. See you later, have a great career. Now, that's never going to happen in football, and we probably don't want it to,
There's different examples, like Dimmer, you know, what year was Fagan in at Brisbane when he first won their flag? You know, would have been year 6 or 7, right?
Yeah, it'd have to be 6, 7, 8. He was the same year as...
There's more stories like Dimmer and Fagan than there are McRae.
But so, Mitch, like, the Hardwick story and the Fagan story are completely different to the Voss story. Hardwick and Fagan took over clubs that were basket cases at the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
Michael Voss has not taken over.
Yeah, no, that's
Damien Hardwick.
That's what I was getting to before in terms of
final series 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
Chris Fagan kept winning more games every single year. Michael Voss's tenure at Carlton has been a mismatch of complete inconsistency. The difference between their best and their worst, to use his own quotes, I think it might have been to your question, is way too big. And it hasn't improved in 3.5 years. Is it all his fault? Of course it's not. Do Carlton have a toxic culture problem that goes back probably since the 2000s? Of course they do. But it doesn't mean that they can sit on their hands and just continue down a road that they have been because they're too scared of generating change.
You know what? I don't mind. I'm picking up what he's putting down a bit.
Well, take us through your comparison before. You were saying off air about Collingwood, you know, and you've said this in the Tradies pod before, you know, Membry and Billy Frampton wouldn't be walk-up starts at every club.
The whole list conversation is...
frustrates you, does it?
It really
so I did
gets
say
to me.
that to you. I said, look, the list, I don't think the list has improved over the last 2-3 years. Like, I reckon it's nearly got worse every year.
Yeah, I think there's maybe 2 lists that are better than Carlton's. Maybe.
Yes, but you were saying, back to the original point though, is if you look at all the top teams, there's all players in all the top teams that aren't the best, but it's the system that carries them along and makes them good.
I think Collingwood's list is pretty bad, to be honest. I don't think they've got a great list. Outside of Nick Dacos, I don't think they've got a whole heap of great players.
They play Jamie Elliott.
They play in a system, though.
Jamie
Elliott never kicked 40 goals in a season before, heading into this year, and is always injured.
Maynard Australian.
Pendlebury and Sidebottom are at a retirement home. I mean that absolutely respectfully as 2 of the greatest players that have ever played the game.
Dan Houston.
For anyone, but they're old. Houston hasn't worked. Membry was wheeled out of St Kilda. Thanks for your time. See you later. Same with Frampton. And Craig McRae's system has an ability to turn these guys into role players, to play in his system.
Bobby Hill.
You see when that ball goes out on the wing and there's black and white stripes running after it, mate, it's like a bomb is in that footy and they are all chasing it to defuse it like their life depends on it. There's not that intensity at Carlton.
My biggest point with the Carlton list is the overall list might not have got better and the bottom 6 might be as it was 2 or 3 years ago, but the best players are all in their prime. The best 6 players, De Koning, Wiedering, Walsh, Mackay, Curnow, Cripps, are all between 24 and 30. That is prime hitting zone, and you've built your list to the point of having those guys, your best 6 players in that window. You know, Richmond, when they won the flags with, Rance, Revolt, Cochin, that crew, the Giants got close with their best 5 or 6 players all in that prime. Carlton is built to this point, and the fact they're under delivering right now is the biggest worry with a list that they've spent 5 years to getting to the point to contend, and they're not.
Well, yeah, let's just say it's a watch your space then.
I think so, but apparently we're waiting another 8 weeks because people are too scared to make change before that.
Do you know the danger of this as well is just say they are going to make the call and they know they're going to make the call. The danger is that someone moves on a really good coach before they do. And I feel like this happened maybe when they were going for Voss. Did it happen?
Well, so they gave the job to Ross Lyon.
Yeah, but before that even, there was someone else. I feel like.
So Clarko was available. Brad Scott was available. Yeah. It was mainly North Melbourne and Essendon were the 2 teams that were going hammer and tongs. Yeah. Oh, and it was the Giants as well.
Yeah, so Kingsley.
Because they got Kingsley.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kingsley, McRae and...
Kingsley ran second to McRae.
But were Kingsley, McRae and Voss all hired in the same year?
No, I think Voss was a year after.
No. Voss and McRae were in the same 2-week period.
Were they?
Yep.
But who would you say at the moment is the number 1 or 2 coaches that aren't in head jobs at the moment that would be looked at in the off-season for any team?
Well, I know
Horse?
I know that Essendon players rave about Daniel Jean Syracusa and the culture that he is able to create at Tullamarine.
He's gone for a few jobs.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
Ross Lyon is a huge lover of Corey Enright.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like he's the succession unofficial, they said.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a smokescreen personally, but we'll wait and see. Ash Hansen was talked about as a potential senior coach for a long time. It seems like he might be going more down the administrator role.
Hayden Skipworth and Stephen King ran second and third for the West Coast job, so they've got to be in the conversation.
Sean Grigg is starting to turn heads on the Gold Coast under his old mate Damien Hardwick. I'm not sure if he wants to be a senior coach, Grigger, but...
What about the older boys? No, I'm just Miss Krieger.
Oh, did you? Went to Richmond just before you got there, did he?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What about the older boys in terms of like a Longmire or Adam Simpson? Are they keen to coach? Do you know of?
I think John Longmire certainly is. I'm not sure about Adam Simpson.
I think Simpson is a yes in time.
Simpson's cool. I
He'd
like
be,
Simpson. I like John too. Big horse. I don't know why.
See, Adam Simpson's stocks have almost risen in the 12 months he's been out of the game.
His media stuff is just unbelievable.
Like Justin Lepich when he left.
Yeah.
And he was in the media for a year. His stocks continue to rise.
Be risky to give Simpson another go, I reckon, given his last few years. I feel like that really damaged his reputation, what happened at West Coast.
The knock at West Coast was he wasn't coaching the modern game for the last 3 or 4 years.
Do you know what, though? Yeah. And I was talking to Josh Fraser recently on the podcast, and it's a really important point that I don't think a lot of people listen to in coaches, and it doesn't get respected enough because people just think, oh, no, you weren't winning or you weren't, you were losing, is you do learn a lot from a losing club than a winning club. Like you're being at both teams, like being at a team that's won a premiership and a team that's finished on the wooden spoon, like you're learning equal amounts from both of what to do and what not to do.
The Carlton players must be learning heaps.
Well, it probably, keeping in mind you have to do both of those things. So like, if you've done one or the other, it probably isn't holding you in good stead. To be well-rounded, if that makes sense.
I hope it'd be great for the game if John Longmire ended up coaching a team like Melbourne or Carlton or something like that. Having him coach here in the Mecca of footy, he's just such a big presence. His record of getting teams to finals and deep in fight. Like, I know that people want to have a go at his grand final record, but goodness gracious me, like you look at teams like St Kilda, Essendon, Carlton,
Get the big horse in.
North Melbourne, like they would give their left arms to have records to get to finals like that. Do you know what I mean? So forget about, he's been belted in a few grand finals. Yeah, but he keeps getting there.
He might need more than 12 months out of the game to get over what happened at the end of the Swans' tenure, though, won't he?
I don't know. I don't know John personally that well, but he seems like a pretty resilient fella.
Yeah. So we spoke about the rucks. Carlton, we'll move on. Bont, we've touched on. He'll probably stay. Colby McClure just signed until 2028. So
he's just going to stay.
Yeah, you can't
but
see him leaving.
It is weird it's got to round 18.
It's weird.
He's probably maybe waiting to see what happened with Bevo and a few minor details in the contract.
Colby McClure re-signing to the end of 28. That's almost as big a setback as the stadium not getting built for the Tasmanians.
The next Zach Merritt, I reckon, Colby McClure.
I just think
they look
that's
quite
just an
similar.
incredible, how
Hard
can you
to
say that?
It's hard to say. Yeah.
What, because he's little
Left footer,
and a left footer, that's it.
exquisite kick.
Disrespect level towards people like Zach Merritt.
Well, you could look at it the other way. It's also a compliment saying that if he got to that, it would be...
Zach Merritt's a generational sort of midfielder. Colby McCurch is playing in the back pocket of a team that can't win a game. I think they're
Essendon
pretty
aren't
different.
playing Zach Merritt in the midfield.
Yeah, because they're trying to bring the...
I was actually...
I always take the bait.
I was actually up in in Launceston over the weekend.
Any talk about the stadium down there?
Oh,
or?
mate, they're not happy with the government over there. They want the stadium, but
That'd be rare. Tasmanians not happy with something.
yeah, they're beautiful people there. But I was actually at UTAS. Beautiful deck there. They're knocking like half of it down and building a new stadium, and they can't even get the other one up.
What people don't
What's
understand
going
is
on?
they're going to spend $1 billion on the new stadium in Hobart,
I said, what's happened? Do you realise?
and they spent $130 million on the new stadium in Launceston. So there might only be 7 or 8 games a year in Hobart because they're going to have to pay 3 or 4 up in Launceston.
Won't happen.
So random.
Why are
man.
they spending money on Launceston then?
Don't ask me that.
So you don't reckon it'll get up the stadium?
No, it's 50-50 the stadium.
So strange. They had their early voting in, and people were lining up when I was there. So
Oh yeah, there's an election.
let's see how they go.
You wouldn't have seen Sam in the line. He doesn't vote.
No, he doesn't vote. Apparently, he can't. He's a journo.
Shouldn't.
Shouldn't. Jamara Ugelhagen, where's he going?
I think you'll be at Sydney next year.
Sydney going to swing the axe, hey? That's what
Sounds like it.
I think Tom Morris was reporting that.
Yeah, I mean, Dean Cox doesn't muck around. Leon Cameron, which you would probably know, still doesn't muck around either.
Yeah, I've been on the end of one of those still listening. Yeah.
They're, on
Took it pretty well.
they're not in the business of mucking around. They're usually trying to contend every year.
Yeah.
In the market they're in, they've got to be.
Yeah.
Jamara just represents such an appealing opportunity for a club like Sydney that they'll back themselves in to get his off-field stuff right, and they'll get him pretty cheaply on a heavily incentivised contract that, if it doesn't work out, they cut ties, and if it works out, they end up, go with generational talent. I think it's a pretty cool space for the trade sphere right now. Someone like Jamara lurking like that.
I think the best thing for Jamara is to get out of Victoria, to go find a new environment. And
Yeah, I'm not convinced that's actually the right thing for him. However, it's probably not for us to comment on what's best for Jamara off the field. It certainly wasn't the best for Jesse Hogan leaving Melbourne and going back home to Perth. It was probably worse for him. And he's talked about that.
Yeah.
But I think, like, if Jamara was looking for inspiration of how to turn his career around, look what Jesse Hogan has been able to do at GWS.
I feel like it's something like a Gold Coast over in Brisbane. Like, you can see him up there. Gold Coast have too many key forwards, so you probably wouldn't think there, but potentially.
Oscar Allen's, all the talk is Brisbane. That's what every other club thinks.
Environments are funny things in footy clubs, aren't they, Dill? Like, I remember when Hogan got the 1 year deal at GWS, and I don't know what you were like.
Were you there then?
No.
But we were all sort of like, a lot of us rolling our eyes. Oh, well, third club, last chance saloon.
Yeah.
And I remember speaking to Phil Davis, who was in the twilight of his career, after pre-season training. And Phil's pretty, you'd know,
Honest, yeah.
But he's also like, he's pretty harsh. Like, he's got high standards. He doesn't, what I mean is he doesn't rave easily.
Yeah.
And I remember just talking to him after a pre-season training session. He was like, mate, Hogan is like dead set a freak. Like, training on him, like the way he moves, the way he turns you inside out, like his core strength. And look what he's turned his career. Like, every time I watch Jesse Hogan play now, I get that warm, fuzzy feeling. I don't know why. It's just seeing what he's been able to do with his life and how it's transformed into him being one of the best players in the competition is pretty awesome, I reckon.
It's awesome. I think at the end of the day, as harsh as maybe opinions are on people, everyone just wants to see them at their best.
Yeah, that's right.
And Jamara could be anything.
Yeah.
So I think everyone just wants to see him at his best and happy and healthy and playing good footy.
That's so true. We all see glimpses. At the end of the day, we all just, as raw footy fans, even if they're not playing for your own team, you want to see guys playing to their best.
Watch this space and home. Harley Reid.
No comment.
Sam?
No comment.
Harley Reid? What's his contract? He's
on a 3-year deal as an initial draft.
So that's
contract.
next year's his last.
Yep. So he's out of contract into 26. Look, if I was a betting man, I think he does 12 more months at the Eagles, and then clubs go super hard end of 26. The other thing too, he didn't have a strong preseason at the start of 25.
Why?
I think he enjoyed the life of a footballer in the off season a bit and didn't come back in the best shape that he could have.
Second year Blues.
I think he could have had a bigger preseason than what he delivered. And we saw that in his first 6 to 8 weeks, didn't we? He wasn't showing what he was in his first year. Go away, have a massive preseason, shoot the lights out in year 3, and then work yourself into a mega contract.
Yeah. I don't like, we're talking about trades and stuff obviously, but I don't like players leaving after 2 years, 3 years even is like quite a short amount of time, purely because I think once you've been traded once and you get traded at like a 3-year contract, you go to your next club. If it doesn't work there,
You're cooked.
it's not many get to 3 clubs. And if you do, as you mentioned before, everyone goes, oh, you've had 3. Is it like, what are you going to get out of this? Like, is it I just think that you should stay at a club for at least like 3, 4, 5 years, 5 years being the latter, and then explore your options to come home after that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I feel the same way. The problem is that footy's changed so much and the business of footy's changed so much in such a short period of time that these 8, 9, 10-year contracts that are being thrown around to get people to move, they're offering security that, we've never really seen before.
Yeah.
Every club and every person in this space you talk to always points to the fact that the Condors Sports Management Group that look after Harley Reid rarely, if ever, move their players in contract. So they'll give them the time at their existing club to see it through. So in this case, it's 3 years.
Yeah, and while I agree with that stuff in principle, again, it comes down to, like, Connors also has Jamara, who will look to move. He also has...
But that's a bit of a different...
Also had Petrarca and Oliver.
Yeah,
who
but they've
were
been
trying
there.
to move 6 years left on their deal.
They've been there extended periods, though.
I understand that.
So the initial draft contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think footy's changing. I think the next generation
Can move.
Yeah, and don't feel the necessity for loyalty that others once felt, and that's not a judgment thing. That's not me saying it's better or worse. That's just how it is.
Yeah, no, and to be honest, I enjoy that. I love player movement.
It's good for us.
My point being around the Harley thing wasn't more around him not wanting to move. I just think as a long-term piece, I think it adds more pressure to you when you're at your second club. Now's the time to sort of go. Whereas you never know what's going to happen in 1 week, let alone another year or two at a place. Zak Butters. The talk about, I think if I always had 1.7 like the Saints do, if that's the number they're talking, I'd be going Zak Butters over
they're definitely looking at him.
Saints as well.
Yeah.
With TDK.
Yeah, so the Saints have $4 million spare in the salary cap going into next year.
It's such a sauce thing, isn't it? He literally pays
and a gubby thing.
Because I remember he'll pay 90% of the bloke, and I love this. I was one of those 90% of the blokes on $4, and then the rest are on just massive contracts.
Yeah.
Does it work though? What team
worked at Richmond?
Richmond did it.
Richmond did it. Did it? Okay.
Yeah, Richmond had
all those role players like Butler, Townsend.
Yeah, Kane Lambert.
Castagna.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
What was it? Richmond 6 were Dusty, Cochin, Rewalt, Rance, Prestia, Lynch. I've forgotten.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's maybe one I've forgotten.
Nag, sort of.
They were the 6. So the whole NBA franchise model has been done before to some success.
But the Giants did it.
Yeah. But to your point, it looks bad when it's Carlton and you're not even in the 8. Then it looks real bad.
Yeah.
Because it's like, hey, you're paying these 6 blokes who are underperforming.
But who else are the Saints paying right now?
No one.
So they've got $18 million to spend.
But they have to. This is a thing that I love when I think I even learned it on your show. It's you have to pay X amount of your salary cap. So there would be some guys that are on
Tom De Koning could easily walk into St Kilda next year and get $2.5 million in his first year.
Yeah,
to
just
to front end it.
So in the back end, when they're hopefully contending for finals and they've got to pay Filippo, Travaglia, Taru, they're hopefully paying those guys $1 million. Hopefully De Koning's on $800,000 by the end of it because you've got to hit 95% of your cap.
So interesting. It's really
It's like Ben Mackay at Essendon, right? Everyone says, he's a $1.3 million player, $1.5 million. That was only his first year or two.
Yeah.
The average is about 800.
I think the Butters, like it sounds like Butters is going to stay at least one more year. But when Ken goes, he's so close with Ken.
loves Ken.
And you just
I think
know.
Ken could coach.
Yeah,
somewhere.
could.
I've got a theory. If you're a club in Victoria, wouldn't you go after Ken?
100% and get Butters with him.
Yeah, as
That's
an
what I was-
assistant or even as a senior
Mate,
coaching mentor.
I think you'd get a lot of them. Like I think you'd get a lot of.
Ken's had a good track record of, Radigalia, these guys he's attracted, Horn Francis, they fall in love with Ken.
Ken would be the only bloke right now that I would go with Carlton and be like, I'd take Ken.
Over Horse and these guys.
Yeah, I really like Ken. Looks fit at the moment too. He shaved his peel. And he's just looking new and hot.
You reckon he's been in the steel room?
I reckon he's been doing a bit of work.
Really?
Yeah, I like Ken. I think it speaks a lot when you got a guy, and Zak Butters is a very loyal guy, and I think we all admire the way he goes about it. But you can tell he loves Kenny.
Ken could
And
go
Josh
down-
Carr's like that too, from all reports.
He could go down as one of the best emotional coaches of the last decade, I reckon, Ken. Like to get his players up for a moment. Like they had no right to win that gather round game against Hawthorn,
No.
for example. But they just find a way.
Yeah, but then they lose
But
games
that's
that
what
they
I
should
mean.
win.
But
their list
because
is-
you can't play on emotion for 23 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's see. So Zach's, you haven't heard much about that yet?
I've got a theory that he's if he comes back, it'll only be to the west of the Westgate.
Yeah, so Western
So like
Bulldogs.
because he wants to be close to his home in Bacchus
so
Marsh,
Carlton,
Geelong, Dogs,
North Melbourne.
Yeah, like so.
Oh, you're talking more west-west.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'd have Hawthorn in front.
a long way from Bacchus Marsh to Dingley.
I think Sam Mitchell's up to his eyeballs again.
It'd be so funny if he went to Hawthorn. Jeez, that'd be fucking big. He's so good.
He's exactly what they need too.
I think every team needs him.
Yeah, but
Every
I mean,
team.
like Hawthorn's midfield's pretty inside. Butters has got that burst.
What about Naz then? Nasai Wang and Emilera.
Honestly, I don't.
Don't know.
My gut feel's always been he'll stay for the Saints on a 2-year deal and then buy himself more time because the amount of money that's going to come around in that 2027 trade period with Tassie entering the market.
Maybe. Don't
Yeah.
laugh.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't laugh.
Yeah. No.
Don't.
If and when
Oh,
Tassie
I'm
come
laughing.
in, that trade period before they arrive, there'll be all sorts of crazy figures doing the rounds. Matt Rao just signed a 27 when he becomes a
To
free
get to
agent.
that. Do you know that I said the thing as well? I think you guys said it and people actually took it seriously, but I said it on. No one takes me seriously. I said the same thing about Nick Dacos. Like, there's no reason. Everyone goes, oh, but the AFL want him to stay at Collingwood. No, they wouldn't. They'd love him to go to Tasmania.
The AFL would pay him
Triple.
on the side
Yeah,
to
like
get him down there.
Imagine getting him to that is a way that it would work.
It's not off the table. He's close.
Didn't he even say something
How
about
was it? It was to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that he will be 26 when Tassie
26. My
Come
God,
in?
he'll be on 10 million.
How old was Gary Ablett when
In
Gold Coast
29?
came in?
would have been similar. Was he?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, you're the
wow.
king of Geelong. You tell me.
I don't know. Well, I'll
Might
search
look it
that.
up.
Well,
And he loves the business of sport. They're going to have at least $3 million in a pool on the side to get Dacos.
25.
No, 26.
26.
Yeah, there you go. So he'll be 26. It's the same age, same
he
income.
might have 3 Collingwood flags by then.
Yeah,
And you could always see him coming back to Collingwood, doing the Gaz journey.
You offer him
goes up, goes back.
you offer him the captaincy, right? You say you're going to be on $2.5 million for your first 3 years.
Is he a golfer? Does the 7
We're gonna-
mile appeal to him?
I think he has a bit of a swing, but
We're
not-
going to give you a $1.5 million sign-on check,
yeah.
right? Completely outside of your salary. And we want you to be the face of this franchise for the next 10 years. You give him a 10-year deal.
And
know
can,
what?
You can live in Melbourne from October to March.
You're confident though with him that he's so consistent and so has such a good head on his shoulders that not that like Gary, like he's probably similar to that in that sense of Gary, but you just know they're going to rock up and play well and not get overawed by it.
He the interview I did with him about when we talked about Tassie was just down at Vic Park in Kew, near where he grew up. He was doing something for Elite Supplements, this new supplements brand. He was signing on as an ambassador. And I got there and he's just sitting on the bench with a box of Nando's. And I was like, wow, Nick Dacos eats Nando's. Like,
that's the funniest thing you've ever said.
What was you eating?
I want to eat Nando's.
I want to eat Nando's.
Like the
that's,
chips or the wraps?
That is
or?
like legitimately the first thing I thought. Anyway, Dill, I was like, I can't believe Nick Dacos has Nando's chips. Like that makes me feel. Anyway, he opened the box. He just ordered the chicken.
Yeah.
As in like just
the chicken
just
tenders.
chicken fillets.
Yeah.
Nothing else. And I was like, and that's where we're different.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nick Dacos Nando's. So if there's a nice Nando's in Sandy Bay near the river.
There you go. What about Luke Jackson?
Nah, I think it's cooked now. I think he stays.
Yeah.
Which is bad for Mitch.
Yeah, the
Mitch's Barrack. It's Mitch's Dustin Martin.
He had a genuine interest in coming back to play for Melbourne. But the fact that Kozzie's staying at this point, I've got no doubt over the next 9 years, Kozzie's going to try and agitate to get out of that at some point. Well, he's done it 3 times in 3 years, so you can't tell me the next 9 years is off the table.
Are you trying to get him to Geelong? Is this what this is
Luke
about?
Jackson?
Yeah.
Apparently they don't have room in their salary cap.
It's been put to me by someone in footy that you are actively barracking for him to get to Geelong. That's all I'm saying.
I like that you're a fan. You don't.
It's not that at all.
No,
I
not
reported
that.
I reported the Melbourne stuff originally, and I said if he came back, it would only be to Melbourne. Sam was actually the one that put the Geelong Footy Club on the radar.
It's because you told me to. You texted me to.
Geelong have to be after someone. Andrew Mackey's always like who's?
Yeah, it'll be Oliver again.
You reckon?
Oliver and Petrarca cannot finish their careers dwindling at Melbourne, surely.
Oliver, Bailey Smith, Max Holmes. That'd be pretty.
Wow. Not sure what would be more fun, watching those three on the footy field or watching those three at a nightclub.
Oh, don't throw Max Holmes. Max Holmes he's a nice young chap.
Doesn't mean he couldn't be fun at a nightclub.
That's fair.
He obviously has a great sense of humour, given he dressed up as us at Wacky Wednesday.
Very true.
Was he you?
Max was me.
Tanner Bruin was me.
Yeah. Okay. And Mark Blitzarves was Harley Reid.
Harley Reid. That's good. Oh, it's so good.
To finish up, I know you guys are extremely busy, but I think just some insight as well onto like how you guys manage your relationships with like list managers, players.
We're a bit different.
Yeah, like how does it work?
I probably play the long game. Sam's more. Well, I get the sense that you don't mind just going ham for a bit.
You've had a couple punch-ons, like not physical, but
I haven't in a while. We probably are very different. I still play the long game. I just I sort of I probably for 10 years took a lot of punches and then one day woke up and was like, that's enough. And now I don't engage anymore.
Was there a turning? Do you remember the
Yeah, there was probably one that went too far and I just kind of said to myself, well, that's enough. Like, we're not curing cancer here. It's footy. It doesn't really matter that much.
I mean, like an argument with someone?
Yeah. Yeah. And I just don't.
Remember the story? Can you tell us the story?
No, I probably can't because I still don't really talk to the person. But
do I know it?
Probably. It's but I don't. So I keep my cards pretty close to my chest. I talk to. I think I've said this publicly on Tradies before. The majority of people I talk to are players now, because in the end, the players are the ones that know what's going on, and if you protect the players with stories that don't need to be out there because the punishment doesn't fit the crime, then I think you end up creating good enough relationships. I'm probably close to more CEOs and presidents than I am list managers now, but that was different a while ago. Footy clubs lie a lot. That's the hard part, and it's filtering through the lies, and it's still being able to report what you believe the truth is. That's the hard part. Because then, if Mitch has a really good relationship with a list manager, but Mitch knows he's being lied to, it's a big decision for Mitch to then go, okay, well, am I going to call him out on it?
Yeah.
Or am I going to leave that one alone and hope that when the big story does come down the line with him or her, that I can still have that?
Yeah. I'm not going to say the example because I don't think it's fair, but I've had one example where someone lied to me twice.
Oh, I know this person.
And I thought I had a good relationship with them and I don't speak to them anymore just because I'm like, what's the point of having the relationship for the 3 out of 10?
At like Clubland or like someone that...
In the footy industry.
In the footy industry, yeah.
Someone who you can have a relationship for the 3 out of 10 stories when I need, it's not like you sweeten the phone to ring, hey, here's a story. But if you can source from elsewhere, you go to them for confirmation and you get steered away from it and just blatantly lied to, then I don't think there's worth having that relationship.
The other thing is now, Dill, and this is going to sound like a cop-out, and I promise you it's not, but I've reflected on this for a number of years. There's so much misinformation out there, but there's never been a bigger appetite from footy fans to have content. And so what ends up happening is that, footy journos are under so much pressure to pump stuff out there that sometimes you end up with stuff that's not exactly right or doesn't deserve the airtime that it gets.
Yeah.
So I reckon it's really hard. It's really, really hard to get proper stories that are meaningful, that cut through with footy fans. That stuff's hard. And we're up against 18 clubs as well and their media teams.
Yeah, but then also like even players podcasts now and all those sort of things. Like there's so many avenues to get different things out.
Like I had a story last week that took me basically 3 weeks of phone calls, and I knew it was right, and I had it written, 800 words on the screen, and the person who I was writing about rang me and was like, "Oh, it's not true," and I was like, "Well, I know it's true," and he eventually by the end of it he said, "Look, I like it's true, but if you report that, I will come out publicly and deny it." And I played it all out in my head, and I was like, "This is just not worth. This is not worth it."
Yeah, because
it's not worth it because he's going to come out and publicly deny it.
You're going to be hauled over the coals for a week.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I don't, I say I don't listen to it, and I don't, but it's never fun. And then I remember just like going to bed that night being like, how many more of these things can you sort of?
The most frustrating thing is like being in that environment, and you might not have it confirmed yet, but you get the, hey, I'll let you know when it's right. Those phone calls never come. It's not like, hey, you work on a story for weeks.
The payoff's never there.
Hey, mate, this is close. I'll let you know when it's official. Never happens.
Yeah.
Never. So you got to either bite the bullet or just expect to cop the L.
Is there a memory of one of your, like, that you both have of one that you went with and you knew, like you backed in, you knew, but there was still that grey area of going far out, but then it turned out to be like a very true, good story and they...
Oh, yeah, definitely. Mitch McGovern leaving Adelaide.
Yeah.
I remember that was... I reported that because he had 2 years left on his contract, and I reported that he had a blue with Taylor Walker before training. Basically said, if you don't want to be here, don't come out in the training track. And it was, it blew up at the time. And then his manager, Colin Young, came out about 10 minutes after I reported that he wanted out. Big exclusive with the Herald Sun. That story's completely wrong. Mitch loves Adelaide. He's probably going to re-sign, blah, 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 blah. And that, I think the report came out in like May or June or something. So the wait until October, until the trade period was just like, I remember so many sleepless nights being like, if he stays at Adelaide, I don't know if I can show my face in the office again.
Yeah.
And then he requested a trade to Carlton and still going to the Blues.
Do you remember where you were when the trade request came through?
Yeah, I was.
I didn't know that. That was a leading.
Yeah,
it was one. It's no longer there. It was one of George Columbaris's restaurants in High Street Q, right across the road from the QPO. Saint Helena, Saint
Helena Republic or something like that.
Yeah,
yeah. What happened to the restaurant? That's not funny. Sorry, that's not funny.
I've got this weird thing. Like I always remember where I was when you report a story or when you get information. Like I still remember I was out the front of the precinct when I got the information that Charlie Curnow had done his knee playing a basketball. Remember there was that story like that was
with Cripper
that unravelled the.
Sorry, with Patrick Cripps. I don't know why I went in that.
Yeah, unravelled the whole knee thing. Just a weird. I drive past places. I'm like, oh,
can I ask you a question? So, sorry if I need to finish. Where were you? Were you on leave when when you broke that Noah Bolter exclusive?
Yes.
I remember seeing it. I was like, Mitch, aren't you on a holiday?
That's so good.
So I don't know, do we care about this?
No, go for it. Yeah, I care for it. Yeah,
I got a phone call at 5:08
AM or PM?
PM.
Yeah.
So this is 52. That's 50 minutes till the news is on.
Yeah.
I was just pulling in from Bunnings. I'd been on one of my rare Bunnings trips.
I was about to say,
I'm not a Bunnings
not
guy,
a regular
typically.
Bunnings operator, is Mitch.
I'm not really in the timber, like in the heavy, hardcore section. It's more the bits and pieces
Like
for the home.
Yeah.
I hadn't shaved for 2 weeks. Didn't have an iron shirt. I rang the office and said, I've got this story. I'll just file it for online.
Which was that he was going to be charged, or which was that he'd been in the fight, or
he had a
I'm
fight,
trying to remember the story.
Been arrested and charged.
He had been charged. Okay.
Yeah, been arrested and charged.
And no one knew about any of this.
No.
Yep.
Richmond, I think Richmond only learnt this a couple of hours earlier.
Wow.
So this was just after
This is New
the
Year's
event.
Day.
New Year's Day, yeah.
Yep.
It's a big story.
So I leave all the Bunning stuff in the car and I'm trying to confirm this story. So this is the tip-off I get. I've got 50 minutes. I ring work and say, I think this is pretty solid information. You might want to get someone in the newsroom ready. And they're like, no, we want you to do it. I said, I can't get there to the office in that time, have a shave, shower properly and all that. They're like, no, we'll send a camera to your house. So they sent a news camera to my house. I'm trying to confirm the story. The neighbours are, why is there a 7 news camera out the front?
Not very middle park.
Yeah.
Sourced it, we reported it, and the rest is history. But that 50
That's how
minutes.
quick it works.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, like, if I didn't do that then and I waited for the next day or the story's out, someone would.
Yeah, exactly right.
And we're in the business of telling people
Can I ask
first.
then as well, and this gets too personal with you guys, do you get like players, for example, you get games, bonuses or things like that. Do you get a certain amount of bonuses on the stories you can break that are like better than anyone else's?
I don't.
No. But you just do it to like, obviously just be the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've never worked in a job where I've got
Like
any
incentivised to
form
break
of
stories.
bonus or
Yeah.
incentives.
Back
There are organisations in Melbourne
That do that, though?
do it for clicks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
can sense that.
and subs.
Subscriptions.
Subscriptions. Yeah. So if you're a journo and
And your article gets subbed.
your
Yeah,
story
so-
results in say 15 subscriptions for a month.
Yeah.
You get bonuses based on that.
Yeah, right.
Or based on how you rank compared to other journos.
I can still remember I was in my apartment in South Bank when Sam broke the story that Joe Danaher was requesting a trade from Essendon to Brisbane. I'd been working on it for an hour beforehand and I was close to going and Sam went with it. I reckon I've slapped the couch harder just in anger.
Now the boys work together.
Tradies.
What about if has a manager ever played you guys or a club ever played you guys in the sense where it's actually they've played you for their own benefit?
Has a
and
manager
then
ever
you've-
not played us?
Yeah. So like they've
Sam doesn't love player managers.
So just say, for example, just to like set the tone for someone out there who might not understand. I know the audience does, but they might get you to report something that isn't actually true to then favour their player in another way.
Yeah.
Has that happened?
All the time. Yeah, I don't tend to deal with many. I've been burnt too many times. I could literally, and I'm thinking about it right now, I could count on one hand the ones that I know won't lie. And that's fine. So they're as you know, Dill, player managers answer to their players. Their job is to their players. And so that's fine. That's completely fine. But we answer to our audience. So we have conflicting ideologies.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're often not going to like each other or because we upset each other based on what we're trying to get out of each other. But in what we do, you want to find the ones that, if they're not going to tell you what's really going on, that's fine. But the ones that mislead you, they're the ones you got to be careful of. When was your last fight with a player manager?
4 days ago.
I love you, Mitch. I just so good. Who was it?
Yeah, go on.
I won't say.
Come on.
Nah.
Was it a bad one?
Nah.
So you'd be fine?
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's right.
That's the thing is you've got to keep these awkward relationships because like
Hutchie always told me you don't have a good relationship with someone unless you have a blowout with them.
yeah, that's fair because you feel comfortable enough to get there. That's a good point. You must have a lot of good friends.
Lots of
a lot of good mates.
If that's the measuring stick, I've got a lot of good relationships.
Yeah. Well, to then go back and it's like a fight that you have, and then you can pick up the phone again and move on.
I actually can't remember the last time I raised my voice with someone though.
That shows dominance, though, man.
I've
You
had
watch
it.
TikTok,
I've had it
they
raised to
say
me
keep your
that
voice
many
down.
times.
You know what that means, though?
Can't remember the last one.
When someone raises their voice, it means that they feel like they're losing control of the conversation.
Yeah.
So the more power you have, or if you're more honest in how you perceive yourself, you'll speak at a low tone. If you feel like if someone's lying about something or getting panicky, they start yelling.
Yeah, there's something in that.
So you can
psychologically,
take that,
isn't there?
Well, 100%.
There is.
Sam was raised his voice a bit the other day when we were talking about ratings on shows.
There you go.
I didn't raise
They
my
must be
voice. I was
sliding.
just you're using numbers that don't make sense.
So 7 better than 9 at the moment? Is that how?
We're not going to open this can of worms.
Yeah.
No, as I said on the pod, F1 teams don't comment on V8 teams.
7 being the F1.
So when you know you have the best product in the best field, don't bother looking backwards.
Fair call. Fair call. Anything else, boys? I'm loving today, by the way. Got to do this more often.
Footy classified. Watch it.
All right. Footy classified.
Footy tonight.
Footy tonight. Agenda setters.
Yep.
Hang on, what's tonight?
Ruse Dogs.
Oh, shit.
What a game.
Well, I tell you what, sound the alarm.
No, I've actually got a
cannot
good...
wait to be home to watch that rip snorter of a game.
North's 100. You don't want to celebrate 100 years of the North Melbourne Footy Club.
The jumpers are nice.
Celebrating their 100-point defeat from last week.
The jumpers are nice. I probably won't be tuning in too much tonight, but Friday night will be great. I hope.
I'll tune into the pre-game and the quarter time and halftime breaks because I get to see Mitch. Outside of that, I'll be watching Yellowstone. Definitely won't be watching the game.
Are you rewatching it or are you...
In fact, I won't be watching Yellowstone. I'll be hosting Wimbledon. So
yeah.
I completely forgot.
There you go.
If you want to watch the tennis, me and Jelena Dokic.
She's very good, Yelena.
She's a star.
I don't think I've got anything else, but I was just going to say Carlton, this will go out after that game, but that is as good as a thriller movie on Netflix at the moment, this game, to see what the fallout is of Friday night.
You're a sicko. I'm not going to watch Friday.
I think it's when you watch the most to see how people respond. Like, there's going to be so many eyeballs on this.
Oh,
Yeah.
They'll get rinsed. They'll get torched.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I've got this weird feeling that I think Collingwood will win, but I've people will probably hear this after the fact and Carlton's lost by 15 goals.
We'll take it out.
But I just got this feeling that after all the hype they didn't deliver last week, that they've finally got something.
Carlton play good against the teams they shouldn't, and they win the ones they shouldn't and lose the ones they shouldn't. But it's going to be a big 2 weeks if they don't show up. I think they will.
Who do they play after Collingwood?
Brisbane.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Hey, guys, make sure you check out the Tradies. Anything else coming up for you guys into the year? We've got the Tradies live show, St Andrew's Brewery.
Yeah, we're organising a little a special for some of our listeners, to a couple of bus loads down to the St Andrew's Brewery.
Hang on a minute.
Yep. I'm working on it behind the scenes.
Okay. Watch this space. Well, make sure you go follow the Tradies account, guys, and subscribe to all that shiznit, and we'll put the link of the podcast in as well. But good on you, boys. Doing
Thanks,
great things.
Dill.
Thanks for having
Appreciate
us.
it. Thanks for letting me chew your ears off.